So I want to review a pair of headphones that could be potentially perfect for the PS5. Let me just muster them into existence. Let's give it a go. These are the Sony Inzone H7s. As much as it might have looked like I just mustered them into existence, I actually did buy these. I bought them to compare with the Pulse 3Ds and with the SteelSeries Arctics 7Ps, I think it is, the 7P? Yeah. And I basically just wanted to try and sort of decide what is the best PlayStation headset that you can get. Now these aren't top of the range. I feel like at the moment I'm sort of batting in that sort of mid-range market of not ridiculously expensive but still very, very good. Honestly, without going into the detail, because I'll save that for the video, I am massively impressed with these. So if you are considering these headphones, keep watching the video because I think you will, if you get them, you'll be happy. So first of all, what are the Sony Inzone H7s? How are they different from the other Inzone series? And also, what do they do? What features do they have? So first of all, they are gaming headphones. They're wireless. As you can see, there is no wire attached to them. Therefore, they're wireless. They're not just Bluetooth, as much as they do have Bluetooth. We'll get onto that. But they use a little dongle with the 2.4 gigahertz to give that sort of no latency gaming experience. So it's as instant as it's going to get. They support the Tempest 3D audio. I mean, that's made by Sony. You'd be surprised if they left that out. So you can hear, when you're in a stationary place, you can hear things that are going on around you, if they're in front of you or behind you or above you, just from the sort of positioning of the speakers. It's very clever. I don't actually understand how it works, but it does work, and I've tested it out by closing my eyes and just imagining. I did it on the Spider-Man game, I think it was, where I closed my eyes and I just sort of was like, I can hear things happening around me, and I'd be like, I can hear a car going past, I think that car is there, and I'd open my eyes and there it would be. Or there'd be people talking and I would be like, I think that person's behind me, and I turn the character around and I can see them behind me. So it definitely works, and it's very, very clever. Alongside that, it does support 2 audio inputs at the same time. That means you can have your PS5 playing whatever game, or your PC playing a game on there, and then you can also have it connected to Bluetooth for example, if you wanted Discord on your phone, or if you wanted to apply your own background music to a particular game, you can do that just from your phone and have it like that. Or if you're watching a video or listening to a podcast, you can do that whilst playing games. It's a pretty nifty feature. Also, for example, if someone gives you a call, you can take the call whilst playing the game. The audio comes through the headphones. You can go between sort of watching something on your phone. It's just like a seamless experience because it's always connected. Really nice. One thing to bear in mind is that they are wireless only. You get Bluetooth, you get the dongle, but no wired auxiliary port or anything like that. No audio through the USB port. It is just those 2 wireless options. Now, as much as it has those sort of key features, I guess you could call them, I will go into a lot of the other details of why these particular headphones are great, because I genuinely think they are great, and a lot of the small details are what makes them great. But first of all, we'll talk about the sort of obvious thing, which is how they look. And I think they look really nice. There's a very clear PS5 aesthetic going on here, and I think that's obviously on purpose. The Inzone is Sony's gaming range. They have some headsets, they have a monitor, and it's all sort of in keeping with that sort of PS5 look. Obviously, PlayStation made by Sony. All of their gaming stuff looks quite nice together, and it all sort of fits with each other really nicely. These particular headphones, again, they look pretty much identical to the ones above them, which is the H9s. There are some differences in features that we'll get onto, but they look pretty much identical to them. I don't think there's any major differences other than sort of like the materials in terms of look, and then like a couple of things with lights and stuff. The H3s are a much more basic version of this, like the hinges are different. I really like the hinges on these. They feel they look really nice, and you can sort of tell as you sort of move them and wiggle them around, it just sort of feels really like just premium. Speaking of feeling premium, it's plastic. I don't think there's any sort of metal on show here, whereas in a lot of headphones that people say metal is a more premium feeling material, and I guess you could say that, but I feel like these don't feel cheap despite being plastic. They feel like a nice texture. I mean, the white and stuff like that feels very PlayStation-esque. It's a sort of nice plastic material. It doesn't feel cheap or rattly. There's a good flex to them. It just feels like they'll hold up for quite a long time. Now, the one thing about the look of them is that they are absolutely massive. I look a bit like an air traffic controller or like one of the guys on the runway sort of guiding in the planes, do you know what I mean? They look absolutely massive. They look like ear defenders, which it's not my favourite look headphones wise, but I don't really mind them if I'm sat playing a game. Like, ultimately, I don't normally care how I look when I'm playing games. I'm not that fussed. A big important thing about them is actually the fact that I think they are potentially one of the most comfortable headsets I've worn, if not the. They are very, very comfortable. Like I mentioned earlier, because they're plastic, they're very light. Ideal, really, because you don't want loads of weight on your head. It feels really light. The sort of pressure being put on the side of your head is quite firm, but it's not like squeezing your head like Oberyn Martell. It's like just like a nice, feels stable, but it's not too much. Now, we'll do the shake test, because this will give you a very good idea of whether you're playing and you get into games, how secure they're going to be if you're playing virtual reality and stuff like that. So I'll give you the shake test now. Didn't last very long, did it? There's a lot to them. If I just sort of move like that, they do stay on, and they use your ears to sort of keep themselves secure. But as soon as you do anything more... anything a bit extreme, they do come straight off. Now, one of the things I'm sort of a bit not sure about is that this is quite I wouldn't say necessarily narrow, but it's not a wide headband. That material there, it's like a sort of soft leathery type material. I don't even know what it is. It must be like a faux leather. It's really soft, and it's like really spongy, really cushiony. So it's a really comfortable feel. This bit on the other side is plastic, and it's just that bit in the middle there that is that sort of soft material. It doesn't put a lot of pressure on your head, so it is very, very comfortable. I was sort of concerned that after a long gaming session that would sort of hurt the top of your head or just get a bit uncomfortable after a bit of time, but I've not found that at all, despite it being not the widest. Ear cups, again, it's like a soft fabric. Doesn't look like it's a really soft fabric, which is really nice, because a lot of time these headphones, they've got quite an abrasive fabric on the side. I don't know whether that's for grip or what, I honestly don't know. But there's like this sort of memory foam type material on the side, and you can push it right flat because it's very, very soft, and then it sort of just sponges back into life again. It's a really nice material, and it just makes a really comfy feel overall. Now, you can adjust it, so if it's not exactly the right fit, these arms do extend, so you can push them right in, or you can pull them out a bit. I sort of have it about halfway, and that seems to be fairly good for me. And one final test, when you have them on the right way round and you put them over yourself, that isn't the most comfortable because they're so absolutely massive, but you can turn them inwards and have them like that, and have them facing in. So if you're going to be taking them off your head, they do fold like this and gives you a sort of more comfortable, not on feel. When reviewing headphones, one of the most important things you need to really talk about, and the whole reason why you have them, is the sound. If you have headphones that sound rubbish, you're not going to want them, and if you have headphones that sound amazing, you are going to want them. That's the sort of key thing, really. And I think these pass the test. These are actually particularly good sounding headphones. Sony are obviously very well known for making good sounding headphones. The Pulse 3Ds that I bought for the PlayStation, I was actually quite disappointed with how they sounded. I felt like it sort of lacked any sort of real bass. It was okay, but it wasn't good. These headphones, the H7s, sound very good. Every single hit in a game, every single gunshot, you feel it. It feels satisfying when you're hearing these noises and when you're going through these different things. It's just like a really sort of full, well-rounded sound. I would say the really low end is not much there, the sort of really low bass, but the sort of, for like impacts and stuff like that sort of thing, it's like really strong and it comes through really clearly. Vocals as well come through very clearly as well, but it's not overemphasized. I feel like it's very well balanced for games. Now, not only that, it's also actually surprisingly good for music. I was sort of thinking that they would obviously just be mainly catered to gaming, which is obviously what they're mainly for. But if you do connect them to Bluetooth for music and you just happen to be using them for something else, or if you're only having one particular set of headphones and you want them to be good for gaming, but you also want to get a set of headphones that you can listen to music from, they sound really good. I think it's partly, in fact, because they're so big, you get a much more, what's the best way of describing it? It's a sort of like a more fuller sound, whereas I think when you get the sort of smaller headphones, it tends to sort of narrow the sound profile, whereas that sort of bigger cup tends to sort of make it sound a bit warmer. Now, it is important to note, so you got the volume switch on the back of the headset there, and it's just a sort of scroll wheel, and it's an infinite scrolling, so there's no sort of particular stops for max or minimum. If you do hit max volume, obviously you get a sort of little audio chime, which tells you that you're there, but also you do see it on the screen on the PS5. So if you're using these for the PlayStation, it comes up on the screen with where you are on the volume meter. If you turn it down to minimum, obviously you know there's no sound. Now this volume does just do a general master volume for the entire headset. There's no sort of separate for Bluetooth and thingy. So for example, if I connected my phone and I turned the volume to a certain level, if I wanted my phone to be louder, I would have to turn the phone volume up as opposed to the volume on here. That's not going to change the phone volume, but it will on here. Now there is a button on the other side, if you have a little look, that says game chat, and that's the game chat mix. You don't actually get that on a lot of other headphones, especially non-Sony stuff, but this actually, what it will do is it will change the balance of the mix between the chat in the game and the sort of sound effects and the music and stuff like that that's happening in the game. So if you're finding people are too loud, you can turn them down. If you're finding you can't hear them, you can turn the game down. And it sort of works quite nicely in that regard. Now in terms of audio spillage, so how much audio comes away from them when you're wearing them, what can people hear who are sat next to you, for example? I asked my wife this whilst I was sat playing a game next to her, and she said that she could hear it, but it wasn't an issue. So it was like very faintly she could hear it at max volume. I feel like if you had it at a sensible volume, the person's probably not going to hear it at all. An important thing for gaming headphones, especially wireless gaming headphones, is the battery life. It's all well and good having an amazing set of headphones that sound fantastic and have great features, but if it only lasts 2 hours and then you're having to put them down to recharge it, and it's going, your gaming session's longer than that, then that's just going to be annoying. In fact, if you have to charge them after every gaming session, that's also going to be quite frustrating. Luckily, these have an absolutely fantastic battery life. Now they state 40 hours, which I know other people who've tested these and done sort of a time from start to finish have gotten more than that. I don't think you ever really need more than 40 hours. It's by far the largest that I've seen on a pair of headphones that I've tested. And it does show they do last a ridiculous amount of time, and you just don't really normally have to think about charging them until sort of right at the very end. And even then, after about 2 hours of charging, they are back to full battery. So it doesn't take a long time. You probably get from 15 minutes of charging a good few hours of battery life. Now my only gripe when it comes to the battery monitoring is that if you leave Bluetooth switched on the headphones, it doesn't turn them, they don't turn themselves off from idling. So for example, I'll have my phone connected to them via Bluetooth and I'll be playing a game, and then I'll stop playing the game and I'll walk away from the PlayStation and I won't remember to switch them off, so I'll just sort of take them off my head and put them down. And then I'll notice that I'm on my phone and the audio is not coming through because they're still connected to the headphones, which are in the other room. One, it's impressive that the connection is actually that strong. It's a very strong connection. It goes across my entire house pretty much. But the thing that's actually quite annoying is that if you're constantly connected to Bluetooth all the time, it is going to drain the battery faster. So it is worth bearing in mind, it's worth turning them off. Now, they do automatically turn off if you're not connected to Bluetooth. So it's like when your PlayStation switches off, it turns them off. But they're not turning off from just being idle, and that could potentially be an issue battery-wise going forward a long time as well. Now, when you're reviewing gaming headphones, very rarely are you just reviewing the headphones. There's obviously this little thing here, the microphone, and that a lot of time is a very important feature. Now the mic quality of this particular set of headphones is actually pretty good for a gaming mic. I normally tend to find gaming headphones don't have particularly great mics. For example, the microphone that I'm using right now, which you can see, this horrendous red looking thing, that sounds, as you can hear it, it sounds quite good. And if I was then to play you what a gaming mic like this one sounded like, it would sound terrible in comparison. But you're not really comparing it to this, because this is an ideal recording dedicated microphone, and the gaming one, it just doesn't really need to be a professional sound. It doesn't need to sound like an amazing video. What you need it to sound like is something that's very clear, that's going to break over all of the sound effects in the game and give you a very clear voice, and that's what these do. So as much as like when you first hear it you think, oh, that doesn't sound great, you don't necessarily want it to sound great, you want it to sound clear, and that's what they are. They're very clear. Basically what it does is it takes out most of the low end, so even when you're sort of mumbling through words, and if you're just sort of muttering to yourself or stuff like that, people can make out what you're saying anyway. It sort of cuts out all of that sort of really low blah, 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 and it just makes it sound nice and clear. Now the mic does also handle ambient noise really well, which means it sort of cuts out most of the stuff that's going on around you. So even if you're playing in quite a loud environment, there's people around the screen, there's people talking in the other side of the room, stuff like that, music playing, it's not really going to come through over your voice. Your voice is still going to stay very, very clear, and it's going to cut out pretty pretty much all of it. Now, I did test the microphone. I went on to a game called Pavlov, and I went to talk to people, and this is what they had to say.
I am testing out some headphones, and I need to know whether this mic sounds good. Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
They sound really nice. They sound really good.
Does the mic sound okay?
It sounds nice, yeah.
Oh, good. That's nice to know. Thank you for your feedback.
So that recording that you just heard was from me playing in Pavlov, recorded through the PlayStation. So that is how it should sound for people listening. The people I was talking to, I did ask a few people that you probably didn't see, but they all sort of came to the same consensus that it was a good microphone. So what can you say? Now, ease of use, it's easy to use in the sense of when you're setting it up, you just plug in the dongle into whatever you're using it on, and it works straight away. The dongle has a switch for PlayStation or PC. So depending on whether you're using a PlayStation or you're using a PC and you're doing PC gaming, will depend on which one you switch to. I don't actually necessarily know exactly what the differences are. I have a feeling it's to do with functionality rather than sound. For example, the game chat rocker and stuff like that. I think if you're wanting to make use of the features, they probably won't work if you switch the switch. Haven't tested it though, so I'm just sort of guessing. Turning on one's pretty easy. You just hold on the power button and you turn it on. Same with Bluetooth. If you want to switch Bluetooth on, you just hold it down and switch it on, and then you can connect it like you would connect any other Bluetooth headphones. It works exactly the same. That Bluetooth button also becomes a function button. So for example, if you're wanting to pause, skip track and stuff like that, it's all based on varying presses of that button. So if you press it once, it will pause it, and if you press it twice, you'll skip it, stuff like that. Now with the microphone, going back to that, it's really easy to use. It actually automatically mutes itself if you have it in the up position. So when you have these headphones connected and that's up, all the microphones are muted, and as soon as you pull that down, then there's a little sort of click as it sort of switches the microphone on. You can sort of hear it. Let's see if you can hear it here. Okay. And then the mic is on. So if you want to make sure no one can hear what you're saying, if you just flick it up, it will put it into mute, and your controller shows that you're muted as well, and it comes up on the PlayStation screen that you're muted. Now the last thing I did to test these was test them with my PlayStation VR 2. Now this is the sort of only concern I had with them. Because they are so abnormally big, the PlayStation VR didn't really go particularly well with them. Now, after a lot of fiddling,
this is ridiculous,
and sort of getting the position right and adjusting the headset, I got it to a point where the headphones were on comfortably, and the virtual reality headset was on clearly as well, so I could see clearly, and it was in a decent position, and I found that sort of sweet spot. But it took a ridiculously long time to do that, and it wasn't particularly easy. I imagine after a bit of practice and you get into sort of a rhythm with it, it might get quicker. But they fit-wise, they weren't particularly great for the PlayStation VR 2. So if you're looking at getting a headset mainly for the PlayStation VR 2, they're a little bit faffy because they're just so massive. It might be when they were doing sort of all of the testing of this one, they didn't use the Sony headset, they used the Pulse 3Ds, even though the Pulse 3Ds are actually a worse headset. So to summarise, what do I think of the Sony Inzone H7s? I think these are a fantastic headset. For people who love gaming and love music, they work for you in both ways. They're incredibly comfortable. You do look a bit silly because they are so massive, so if you have a little tiny head, just bear that in mind. But sound quality, amazing. Features, amazing. Battery life, amazing. I mean, there's not really much more you can ask for unless you want more features, things like active noise cancelling and stuff like that, which you would have to go a level up to the H9s to get that sort of feature. For what they offer, they are fantastic. Other than for PlayStation VR 2, they are my favourite headset. If they were a bit smaller, you probably wouldn't get as good a sound through them, but probably would fit the PlayStation VR 2 a bit better. I would say they're my favourite non-VR 2 headphones for gaming. So guys, what do you think of the Inzone H7s? Are they the gaming headset for you? Are there other ones that you think I should try out? Do you want to see a review on? I've also done a review of the SteelSeries Arctis Nova 7P, which is probably somewhere over here. Again, another really fantastic PlayStation and gaming headset that you can get. So if you want to check that one out and you want to make a decision, then you can do that. And I will at some point make a comparison video between the two headsets. Guys, if you want to see more gaming related tech reviews and stuff like that, subscribe and join the group, the club, the family. I don't have a name for all of us yet, but join in, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Woo!